Բարև ձեզ, հարգելի հեռուստադիտող։ Ես Դավիթ Գևորգյանս ողջունում եմ ձեզ։ Դուք դիտում եք Paros հաղորդաժամը։ Այսօրվա մեր հյուրը West Hollywood քաղաքապետարանի խորհրդի անդամ Jeffrey Prang-ն է, եւ մենք խոսելու ենք շատ հետաքրքիր մի թեմայի մասին, որը որ անմիջապես կապված է մեր առօրյա կյանքի հետ եւ կհետաքրքրի բոլոր նրանց, որոնք որ ունեն անշարժ գույք, գնել են տուն, բիզնես կամ հողատարածք եւ կամ էլ հետաքրքրված են ապագայում գնել որևէ մի անշարժ գույք Los Angeles County-ի մեջ։ Այսօրվա հաղորդումը մեզ կտեղեկացնի այդ բյուրոյի մասին, որը որ արժեքավորում է բոլոր անշարժ գույքը Los Angeles County-ի մեջ, եւ խոսենք այդ ֆունկցիան եւ կարեւորությունը եւ կներկայացնենք ձեզ Jeffrey Prang-ին, որը որ տեխնացու է Los Angeles County Assessory գրասենյակին։ Ի հարգանք մեր հեռուստադիտողներին ես կուզեի ասել, որ հաղորդումը կանցկացնենք անգլերենով եւ կփորձենք բացահայտել, փորձենք տեղեկացնել եւ ընդունենք ինֆորմացիա, ինչպես է այդ բյուրոն աշխատում, ինչ կարևոր ֆունկցիա ունի եւ ինչ փոփոխություններ են առաջարկվում, որը որ կլինեն ի օգուտ համայնքին եւ բոլոր այն անձերին, որոնք որ ունեն անշարժ գույք եւ որոնք որ ունեն երեխաներ դպրոցներում եւ որոնք որ tax են վճարում եւ ինչպես է դա անդրադառնում մեր առօրյա կյանքում։ Ես կուզենամ ներկայացնել եւ շնորհակալություն հայտնել պարոն Jeffrey Prang-ին, որ մեզ հետ հյուր է այսօր եւ կշարունակեմ վարել հաղորդումը անգլերենով։ Շնորհակալություն։ Good evening, Jeff. Thank you for being with us here today on the Paros television show. Today we actually wanted to be able to present the significance and the importance of the assessor's office, and to also present why you have chosen to be a candidate for this office and what are the benefits and the advantages of your service in that office, and a little bit about your background in government administration, and representing small communities.
Surely. Well, let me first tell you a little bit about the Office of the Assessor. The Assessor's Office is the largest public agency of its type in the nation. It is responsible for establishing the value of all taxable property in LA County for property tax purposes.
I'm sorry, that would be approximately how much?
So LA County has about 2.6 million parcels of taxable property that the assessor has to establish their value every year. And the main job is to create what's called the assessment roll, the roll of all the assessed properties.
So for how many?
2.6 million
individual properties that need to be assessed.
That's correct.
That's a big function.
It is a huge, huge function. There are 1,400 employees. The budget for the department is $150 million, but it's a critical department because property taxes pay for services that we as Los Angeles residents all depend on: police and fire, roads, schools, public health. Everything that we depend on is generally paid primarily through property taxes and sales taxes.
So if, for example, if our viewers at home, they don't necessarily particularly own property, or if they don't own their house, or if they're renting, but they have children who are going to school or who are traveling and utilizing transportation on our roads, that is directly impacted.
Every resident of the county depends on the assessor doing their job well. If you're a property owner, you depend on the assessor to make sure that your taxes are not too high or frankly are too low, that they're supposed to be fair and accurate.
Right.
But every resident of the county that depends on public services, which is everybody, needs the assessor doing their job well to ensure that the revenues that are necessary to pay for public services are being collected.
So, and the primary role of the assessor as the head administrator of that department would be to have that oversight over that particular function with assessing, making sure that the assessment is done accurately.
That's correct. Our main employee is the real estate appraiser, and their job is to look at your property, residential property, commercial property, et cetera, to ensure that it's accurately and fairly assessed for tax purposes. Now, I do want to clarify that the assessor is not the tax collector. You don't send your tax bill to the assessor's office. You send that to another department called the tax collector. Let me explain that for just a second.
Please. So there's the assessor's office that values it, and then there's the collector's office.
Yeah. So here's the way the property tax system more or less works. Let's say you buy a house, you fill out a deed, and that is recorded with the office of the registrar recorder.
Right.
The registrar recorder sends it to us saying that somebody bought a house, and they send it to us, and we get the records, and then we send out an appraiser to establish the value. And so we establish the value and put that on the assessment roll. We then give that value to the auditor controller. And the auditor controller's job is to assign what your property tax burdens are and what other special assessments your local jurisdiction or school district may have assigned your tax bill. They then said that
from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, it varies.
So your property taxes are the same everywhere.
Right.
It's 1% of your market price, usually your purchase price, plus the other percentage that the LA County adds on for transportation purposes.
Right.
But your school district may vote on a bond. Your local city may vote on a bond. Those go on your property tax bill, but they're not your property tax per se. They're special assessments. And so,
and usually those bonds are assessed on, for example, a per $100,000 value, for example, just like it is in Glendale.
Yeah, it's usually if a city, let's say they want to build a new city hall or a parking structure or a police station, and they do a special assessment to pay for that. That will also show up on your tax bill. But that's not within the jurisdiction of the assessor. That is something that will be on your tax bill, but the assessor doesn't make that that decision. So after the auditor controller assigns all of your obligations, property taxes, assessments, they give the information to the tax collector, who then sends you your bill and collects the money. The money then goes to the board of supervisors, who spends it.
So now, with all of this information you just provided, I'm extremely curious to know. Would you be able to kind of elaborate on the experience you actually have with this function?
Well, I've been a part of the reform administration in the assessor's office for the last 2.5 years, and a lot of people may know that the assessor's office went through a lot of drama the last couple of years. The current assessor was arrested and indicted under charges of political corruption, and I came in as part of the reform team to help reestablish integrity and stability to the office, something we worked very hard in the last couple of years to achieve. But I am, professionally, I'm a public administrator. Prior to coming to work for the assessor's office, I was an assistant city manager and for a while an acting city manager. I've worked in city, county, and state government, including the Board of Equalization, the LA City Council. Began my career working with the assessor's office in the early 1990s.
Well, so you've actually had multifaceted experience from all of how the county assessor's office interacts with local government and.
Essentially I'm an outsider, but I've had enough experience in the office to know how it operates. And I've been a senior public administrator, so I know how to manage large budgets, large numbers of people, as well as complex government operations. But most importantly, I have been there during these very difficult years trying to help add stability and public integrity to this agency, which has been shaken by scandal.
So there's a lot of people that might not necessarily know about this drama that's occurred in the county assessor's office. So while everyone is quietly working away and living their daily lives, we have individuals like yourself actually trying to handle that crisis. I think that's very praiseworthy and it's very commendable. And I think the community owes you a big debt of gratitude for your dedication to this public service.
Well, you know, I got into public service because I care about public service. I want to give to the community my knowledge, my experience, and hopefully make government work better for the people of LA County. That's what I've dedicated my life in my career to.
I'd actually like to elaborate on, kind of get into your dedication to community and then to community values, but I would like to come back to that after we take a small commercial break, and we'd be able to get into talking about your community involvement and quite frankly why it would be important to have you in the county assessor's office, to have a person that people can actually relate to and people can actually be able to establish a sense of comfort with your involvement in the county assessor's office. So I'd like to take a short commercial break, and we will return in just a moment. Shnakalutsen. Բարև ձեզ, հարգելի հեռուստադիտող։ Մենք շարունակում ենք մեր ծրագիրը Paros հաղորդաժամին։ Այսօր մեր հյուրն է West Hollywood-ի քաղաքապետարանի խորհրդի անդամ Jeffrey Prang-ը եւ շարունակում ենք մեր հաղորդումը իր տեխնացության մասին, Los Angeles County Assessory բաժնի տեխնացության ընտրապայքարի մասին եւ տեղեկացնում ենք ձեզ ընդհանուր ֆունկցիան այդ բյուրոյի եւ տեղեկացնենք ձեզ նոյեմբերի ընտրությունների մասին, որպեսզի համայնքը համախմբված ձևով մասնակցի ընտրություններին եւ քվեարկի իօգուտ Jeffrey Prang-ին։ Հաղորդումը շարունակում ենք անգլերենով։ Jeff, so we were speaking earlier about community and community values. You have been endorsed, your campaign has been endorsed by the Armenian National Committee of America and from also the Southern California Armenian Democrats.
Right.
From what I recall from years ago, your involvement with the Armenian community actually has not only just a long history, but it has a very interesting story behind it. I think it also had to do with the commemoration of the Armenian genocide. I'd really love to ask you to elaborate more on that story and how that came about.
Well, I've been really honored to have the depth of support I've received from the Armenian community. It really means the world to me, and I think it's because there's so many of the values of the community that are also my values. It really, the journey together began probably about 14 years ago when I was the mayor of West Hollywood. 14 years ago? I think it was 13 or 14 years ago. But
how many times have you been mayor?
I've been mayor 4 times.
You've been mayor 4 times in the city of West
During
Hollywood.
my very first term as mayor, about 14 years ago, I remember the controversy in the city of Glendale when I believe the mayor at the time had asked that flags in the city be flown at half-staff in commemoration of the Armenian genocide, and it caused quite a tussle politically. And I remember there was
as in there were people opposing.
There were people opposing this, opposing the mayor's actions, and somebody filed a recall petition against the mayor. It didn't go anywhere, but a lot of people protested, saying that the city had no business providing this sort of tribute and recognition. And that really bothered me because, West Hollywood has a community of, a very large community of Russian-speaking immigrants.
Right.
And, they are an important part of the social fabric of our community. They help identify who we are as a city. And I think it's important that the city government reflect the values of its people. And even if its people come from someplace else, that's what...
Exactly.
And so I thought that, it really bothered me. And I thought, well, Glendale has this very large and substantial and important Armenian-speaking population, and their values and their priorities should be part of the city government. And I thought it was perfectly appropriate for the mayor to make that recommendation. Right. So I read about the newspaper for a day or two, and I said, "Well, darn it, this is kind of annoying me." So I decided to, just in solidarity, I asked and directed that flags in West Hollywood be flown at half-staff in commemoration of the Armenian genocide. I brought forward before the City Council a resolution recognizing the horrors of the genocide and giving official sanction to the recognition of Armenian Genocide Day.
So this was while all of this controversy and storm was happening in Glendale.
I just, I didn't seek any publicity about it, but I just thought I can't remember who the mayor was at the time.
I mean, how many Armenians live in West Hollywood?
Not very many. It's a fairly small group. Right. But I just felt that somebody needed to stand in solidarity with those in Glendale and the mayor who thought that this was an important reflection of the issues and the priorities of the community, and I wanted to let them know that he's got friends and others who appreciate the efforts he was making. So
you're willing to go out of your own, I would say, jurisdiction, outside of the city of West Hollywood, and take a stance on something.
Well, sometimes there's things that are really important, and I think that historically what happened to the Armenian people nearly 100 years ago was so horrific that we all have a duty to add our voices to ensure that there's public awareness and that that we're doing our part to prevent similar tragedies from happening again. And I felt that it was important to do the right thing, to stand with this mayor of Glendale and to show solidarity, and this issue was important to me.
Speaking of the mayor of Glendale, you've also received numerous endorsements from elected officials who are of Armenian American descent. I believe the current mayor of City of Glendale, Zara Sinanian.
Yes, the mayor and
the city clerk, our longtime wonderful city clerk, Ardi Kasakian.
Treasurer,
city treasurer and
Rafi
former
Manoukian.
council member Rafi Manoukian.
And city council member from LA, Paul
Krikorian.
And Adrian Nazarian from the State Assembly. I've got a lot of support in the community. It really is very privileged and honored to have those endorsements. And it's not just, and I'm sure that's not just because I lowered flags, but I know some of these folks for a lot of years through my service in government, and I think they know me to be a public official who has integrity and competence and is able to do the job, and is the best candidate. I hope that's what they believe anyway.
Right, that's certainly so. I mean, it speaks volumes about an individual's character and the vision that an elected official, a representative has, a public figure has for the community.
You know, when you get elected and you have this authority and this power to do things, to be a force of change and a force of good, not using it, I think, is tragic. I want to make certain I'm adding my voice to those issues that I think are most important, and sometimes it even means stretching a little bit outside the boundaries of West Hollywood.
Right, so I believe that it is very important for elected officials to have this drive and this character and this not only political will, but the personal will to stand up and do what is right. That will benefit the entire community, and I believe that that reflects not only on community and social issues, but it can also extend all the way into how government is administered, such as the county assessor's office.
I think we expect our elected officials to be leaders, and leaders are required to look at the what's before them and sometimes push the envelope, to sometimes do things that are a little bit uncomfortable to ensure that those issues that are most important are being addressed. I've tried to do that as a city council member. I intend to do that if I'm elected as assessor, because this is a very important office. The people depend on it, even if they don't know much about it, but I want the people to know what the assessor's office does, how it benefits them as individual property owners, how it affects them as citizens of Los Angeles County.
So speaking of which, doing things that are uncomfortable when you are a public official or an elected official, I would like to actually elaborate on some of the reforms, the changes, or some of the new developments that you would like to introduce into the county assessor's office that not only will it benefit the agency itself, but how it will reflect back on the community as a whole, as taxpayers, as property owners, and as people who utilize transportation and send their children to their local schools.
Well, the first thing we've been doing in the last 2.5 years as part of the reform team, some of the first things we've done is to implement reforms that will ensure that the scandals never occur again. So we've changed our internal controls, implemented new security measures, changed the organizational structure to ensure better oversight by supervisors and managers. We're going to be we've been more transparent, we'll continue to be more transparent through regular audits, fiscal audits, management audits, and programmatic audits. We've also been audited by the State Board of Equalization. So right now, we've really looked inward to see how the organization works, and I think we're operating probably better today than we have in many, many years. Going forward, we have established a new strategic plan. Our vision for where we want this office to go in the next couple of years. And the most important thing is the replacement of our antiquated computer systems. Now, we began
So what do you mean by antiquated? You guys are assessing more
2.5 million parcels.
2.5 million parcels of property.
Now, you would think that.
What do you mean an antiquated?
You would think that a department that values that has to process 2.5 million parcels of property a year would be a technology and information-driven office.
Right.
But we are still substantially a paper-based organization. Each of those files, each of those properties are still associated with a paper file. Our computer system is a 1970 mainframe, green screen, DOS-based system that requires COBOL programmers. And so when you call in,
So an iPhone or a Droid phone would probably be more sophisticated than that.
it is like trying to plug in the whip from a horse and carriage into a computer.
Wow.
It's really archaic.
So changing it from a paper-based system?
So here's what we've begun to do, and what the next assessor will be responsible for implementing. The first one, we're beginning to digitize all of those 2.5 million parcels of property. Eventually, those will be accessible on the computers of our employees. Secondly, we will begin to build a new system.
I'm sorry, I apologize for cutting you off. How many employees does the assessor's
1,400
office?
employees.
1,400. So the county assessor is also in charge of the management and the administration of 1,400 employees.
Yeah, the assessor,
with a paper-based system.
The assessor really is a public administrator. That is a broad-based public administrator. That's to do they have to do finance and budget and appraisal and records management and maintenance and information technology, as well as general administration. So replacing these, digitizing these files and making them available online for our employees and for the public is important. Replacing our computer system, which right now has as many as half a dozen different computer screens that our employees have to access to get information. But it's still not a very robust system, and we still need to access those paper files. We believe it's going to cost about $100 million to build a new system that will integrate all of our systems, make them all accessible online for our employees to give better customer service, faster customer service, but also to make the information which is legal to be made public, to make that public. We should make it as easy as possible for the public to go online and get information that they need about our office and their property as possible, without having to call, without having to have somebody research for them. We need to make, this will save on employee productivity. It'll save on dollars that we're now putting into administration that we can shift into appraisal.
Right.
It's just good government.
So then we as concerned citizens and as property owners, if we wanted to access our own records that have to do with probably the largest investment that most people will ever make in their lives. I mean, it's your home, it's your residence, or it is your business property, or so we are unable to access that information.
No, there is information available online. What I want to do is make it more thorough, more complete, and easier to use.
Without having staff to work on.
I want to reduce the amount of times, the number of occasions when you would have to call and ask staff. I want those questions to be answerable online. We can't do that with the systems we have right now.
Right.
They're not powerful and robust enough. That needs to change. So what the public needs from the assessor, you need to have confidence that your property value is assessed fairly and accurately, that your taxes are not too high or too low. The public wants to make sure the assessor is doing its job thoroughly to ensure that all assessed value is being identified and revenues are being collected to pay for the services that we depend on. The assessor is the foundation of almost all government services. If we're not doing our job well, every service you depend on is probably left wanting because the revenues that they're entitled to are not being collected.
So basically, whenever concerned residents and citizens within their own cities, we often hear about many issues where certain programs or services are being cut, employees are being laid off from local government.
Right.
There just isn't enough funding to continue certain programs and services. We see plenty happening in schools and at City Hall. So basically, a lot of those programs and those services could continue to exist if the assessed value is accurate and it's fair.
There's a better chance. If the assessor is doing its job well and is providing individual attention to as many properties as possible to ensure that they are being assessed fairly, accurately, I believe that there are additional dollars to be collected from us doing a better job. An updated computer system will help us be more fair and accurate and thorough on our appraisals, meaning that there will be a dividend to the public because they'll have more dollars to pay for those services. Will it be, I don't know that it'll be a panacea of new funds, but we need to make sure the government is getting every dollar it's entitled to pay for those things that people depend on.
Well, that creates a whole new topic about government funding and financing, and I think that is really worth looking into. But you also mentioned, Jeff, about managing a budget and managing employees. Can you elaborate a little on your experience in the past as a government administrator, as a public employee, how your experience with managing departments and agencies and employees?
Sure. The one thing, as we've talked a lot about, the assessor's main function is real estate appraisal, establishing value. But the truth is, the assessor himself or herself is not going to be the one to come out to measure your house and establish value. Their job is to manage the hundreds of appraisers that work for the office, to manage the information technology function. And that's what I've been doing in my career in city, county, and state government. I am a professional administrator. I've managed large numbers of personnel, huge budgets in the millions of dollars, and complex government programs, including things such as public works and public safety. Those are the sort of skills that are much more applicable to running the office of the assessor. But importantly, I've served as mayor and city council member in West Hollywood for the last 18 years.
And West Hollywood has been among the best cities who've kept the best financial position during.
West Hollywood was always recognized as one of the best managed cities in the state of California. During the height of the recession in 2008 to 2010, when other cities were laying off employees, furloughing employees, and cutting services, West Hollywood had a AAA bond rating. We had 100% of our annual budget in reserve. That means if we stopped generating revenue, we could have survived a year before we ran out of money.
Wow.
And we were one of two cities in the state with a AAA bond rating. That meant that our public never sacrificed public safety. We provide a very strong social service safety net for our public. Those services were not cut. So people in West Hollywood didn't experience any blips because of the recession in terms of the services that they depended on.
All right, and the city of West Hollywood has always been known to be one of the, for lack of a better word, one of the wealthiest cities with its programs and its funding and its city services.
I don't know that we're a wealthy city, but we are a well-managed city that puts a high value on the services that we provide for people. And we've implemented a very conservative approach to our budget to ensure that we set money aside every year so that during difficult times we have money to sustain our programs. Right. Also, that we have enough money to invest in infrastructure, whether it be a new fire station, roads, or parks.
Right. I would love to get into a little more about your involvement with regional local government, but it's time to take a short commercial break, and we will return momentarily. And there's a couple of really interesting questions that I have for you, especially about the election, Jeff. So stay tuned while we take a short commercial break. Shnakalutsun. Բարև ձեզ հարգելի հեռուստադիտող, դուք նայում եք Paros հաղորդումը եւ շարունակում ենք մեր այսօրվա ծրագիրը մեր հյուրի հետ Jeffrey Prang-ը, որ West Hollywood քաղաքապետարանի խորհրդի անդամ է եւ տեխնացու է Los Angeles County Assessory Bureau-ի. Jeff, we were speaking earlier about your vast credentials and experience with the county assessor's office and local government. From what I recall, you have been the president of the California Contract Cities Association?
About 7 or 8 years ago, I was the president of a statewide organization. It's called California Contract Cities Association. Contract because it was those cities that use county services for sheriff and for fire.
Right.
And it was, it's one of those things that the public doesn't know a great deal about because it's one of the behind the scenes networking and education tools that local government uses. But I was very honored because I was elected by my peers, other city council members from other cities, other mayors.
So the membership is other elected officials and community leaders.
Other mayors and city council members from across California selected me to be their president for a year. And that's really given me, for running for countywide office, that's really important because it it gave me the opportunity to be in the various communities throughout LA County, to know who the different leaders were, who the different communities within those cities were, to understand what their priorities are, and make sure that they're represented in the organization.
Our council member, Jack Hodgen from Montebello, also serves on the California Contract Cities Association.
Yes,
right?
yes, he does. And so, those are the sort of things that a county-wide elected official needs to do, to be able to represent a diverse array of communities and interests, to make sure that everybody feels that the assessor works for them.
So from looking at your experience from regional government and regional community involvement, on top of that being in an administrative role for local government, from what I'm understanding, and perhaps our viewers will agree with me, I am left with the impression that the county assessor is not a policy setting
That's correct.
policy setting position, but it's more of executive and administrative.
It is an administrative office. Their job is to enforce the law, to apply the law fairly. So, a city council, the state legislature, and Congress establish policy. And the truth is, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful, but a legislative body, anybody can get elected and have an opinion about policy. You could be right, you could be wrong. But to be the head of an elected executive office, you have to have experience. You have to have know-how.
Because there's accountability involved in it.
There are quantifiable outcomes that need to be achieved. The assessor has to replace the system. The assessor has to ensure that the annual assessment role is done accurately and fairly. The people of LA County need to know that their taxes are fair and accurate because of good practices in that office. And good practices come from strong and experienced managers. And that's what I have been doing throughout my career, developing a record as a strong and effective manager. Even though I've been an elected official in a policy position, professionally, I've been an administrator.
Right.
But that actually helps me on both sides. I understand the policy implications of what we're doing. I will be able to have the influence to go to Sacramento or to the Board of Supervisors to get the resources and the support necessary to implement our job more efficiently and effectively.
So, now, speaking about going into the assessor's office, I'd like to actually elaborate a little more on the campaign itself. Right. You've received the endorsement of the Armenian National Committee of America. You've received the endorsement of the Southern California Armenian Democrats. You have received the endorsement of multiple Armenian American elected officials, such as Mayor Zara Sinanyan and City Clerk Ardi Kasakian and City Treasurer Rafi Manoukian and Councilmember Ara Najarian. What other organizations have endorsed you and are supporting you to take on this pretty big task?
Well, I think my record as a city council member and as administrator has been met with a lot of support from the people who I've known and worked with over the last 25 years. These are people who know my record. They know my accomplishments as an innovative and creative and hardworking public official. I've got the support of Mayor Garcetti, Supervisor Yaroslavsky, and Rudy Thomas, and Hilda Solis, and Don Kanabi, and as well as most of the members of the LA City Council, as well, and hundreds of elected officials from around the county who I have worked with. These are not just people who, as you know, elected officials just don't lend their name that easily.
Of course.
They're very cautious. They don't want you to bring disrepute to their name. And frankly, they like to bank on a winner. But I'm also supported by the people who know the assessor's office the best. The LA Chamber of Commerce and the Business Federation, the Association of Realtors, whether it be the Greater LA Beverly Hills Association of Realtors, the Pasadena Association of Realtors, the Burbank Association of Realtors. These are people who depend on the assessor in doing their job. So I have business support. I have support from organized labor. As well as all these other public officials who I think really understand the importance of this office.
That's very, very impressive, Jeff. Thank you for informing us. And so my next question to you would be, you have all this community support, and you have all of the experience needed to go in and be hit your feet on the ground running kind of administrator. Just go in there and start making these changes and being the right administrator for the assessor's office. My question is, now, there was a large pool of candidates that were running for this seat until there
were 12.
There were 12 candidates, and now it's between you and another candidate. What differentiates you from all of the candidates that have placed their candidacy in?
I think it's experience and knowledge. I've been I don't want to keep saying it over and over again, but I'm an experienced and veteran and successful administrator. I've been a successful elected official for 18 years. I've been part of the office as part of this reform team, helping to pick up the pieces in the wake of the scandal. I've got a proven track record that people can bank on in voting for this office. My opponent has no experience with the office, no experience as an administrator, and would be really learning the job from scratch on day one. And that is a problem for the public. The public needs the assessor to do their job immediately. You need to be able to ensure that those valuations are fair and accurate. We need to make sure that the job that we're supposed to do annually gets done thoroughly, and that is not a job for a beginner.
Right, so because it's an administrative office, it's ongoing. Yeah. So the person that goes, I understand. So now, the elections are coming up November 4th,
right.
And a lot of changes are going to be happening, even countywide as well. New supervisors, there's a new sheriff that will be in town, and so there's a lot of changes happening. How do you fit into the overall dynamics of all of the changes that are going to be happening in that county?
There's going to be a lot of changes. LA County government is going to look very different come December than it has for the last number of years. We've had a lot of stability with elected officials for over a decade, but now, as you said, 2 new supervisors, new sheriff, and new assessor. I think that I bring to the assessor's office the advantages of being an outsider, having established a career in many other public agencies where I've learned the skills and gathered the experience necessary to run the office. But I also have been involved in the office enough that I add some stability and continuity, so that the members of the Board of Supervisors who depend on the assessor to do their job well, to help with the budget, they know me. They know what I'm capable of doing. They know what I've done in that office, and I think that will provide some reassurance that that the assessor's office will be well managed during the transition period.
Right, that's very impressive, Jeff. And mentioning that you have been endorsed by several significant community organizations, including the Armenian National Committee of America. The Armenian National Committee of America has partaken in numerous elections throughout the history of the community. And it's with great pride and great enthusiasm to say that high votes is involved with all of the sequential elections that have taken place and are upcoming on November 4th and will continue to take place. We'd like to inform the community of high votes, the amount of enthusiasm, the amount of support and volunteer activity that has been put into high votes to make it a successful organization with being able to participate in the election process. And if the viewers would put their attention to the high votes mailer and the flyer that indicates all of the candidates with their respective offices, who the candidates are that are endorsed by the Armenian National Committee of America, who have been vetted by the Armenian National Committee of America, who have had history and have shared the same values as the organization, and have earned the support of the Armenian National Committee of America. We encourage the viewers to call high votes, to participate, to engage, and to learn about the election process, and to volunteer their time and their effort to make sure that elections are done fairly, the right candidates are elected to office, and candidates who are endorsed by the Armenian National Committee of America and the Armenian American community, like Jeffrey Prang for Los Angeles County Assessor, are successfully, complete their campaign successfully and in the best interest of the communities that they will be serving. Jeff, it is with great thanks that that you joined us here today to be able to give us this important information. And I want to thank you for coming out. Thank you for being part of the interview and the show tonight. And we want to, as a community, thank you for your continued service for the city of West Hollywood, for the county of Los Angeles, for the Armenian American community and the entire community of the state of California, and service to our country.
Well, I want the people in the Armenian community to know that I have been a strong supporter and advocate on those issues that are a priority for the community. And if I am elected, that I will continue to be present. I will ensure that the priorities of the community are addressed in our office, that we reach out and ensure that we have people in the community and understanding the benefits and the programs that are available to help you save on your property taxes, and that as jobs become available in the office, that there are opportunities for people in the Armenian community to apply for those jobs and be part of the assessor's office as well.
That concludes our show for tonight. Thank you for watching. Հարգելի հեռուստադիտողներ, շնորհակալություն մեզ հետ լինելու։ Paros հաղորդաժամն եք դիտում council member եւ տեխնացու Jeffrey Prang-ի հետ։ Ես Դավիթ Գևորգյանս մաղթում եմ ձեզ բարի գիշեր։ Շնորհակալություն։